Okay, we're going to go into CJUS 466. This is our Ediscovery class. Guys, this is going to be a short video. Looks like everyone's doing pretty darn good on their quizzes and tests and getting their terms. A few people have commented that I can't find the exact terms in the book. Yeah, this is college, guys. This ain't, I'm not going to give you terms that you can just go to the simple glossary and copy down, okay? I want you to dig through these chapters a little bit. I want you to look and try to really find the meaning of the terms I'm giving you in the chapter. That's going to be the best way for you to learn the concept. Then I'll kind of fill in the blanks as we go, okay? So if you're struggling finding some of the terms, and their exact definition in the text, then that's kind of what I intend. I want you guys to have to really read the chapter, really try to pull that information out, okay? And again, if you're totally off base, I'll correct you. Okay, it's not a big deal. All right, what I want to talk about today, real briefly, again, you guys are doing well on the terms, but Ediscovery, the whole point of it is capturing evidence, collecting evidence. In this case, we're going to focus on crime scenes, okay? So electronic evidence is just evidence. It's just in a different form, okay? So I want to make sure we understand how we get to that evidence. Eventually we'll talk about how to collect the evidence and all of that as well. But the first thing I want to talk about is a search warrant team, okay? If I believe that someone is stealing folks' identities or using those identities or creating credit cards, using electronic formats and such, we'll actually do a pretty cool little project here where I'll show you everything you need to steal, basically create credit cards and checks and everything you could possibly need. You can buy on Amazon. It's amazing. It's actually kind of scary. It's not like in the old days. 30 years ago, you couldn't get credit card blanks, for example. You had to go to the Russian mafia or whatever to get a credit card blank. You just go on Amazon now, you get 100 of them. Okay, and every piece of equipment you would need to write on a credit card, for example. And I'm not saying anything that crooks don't know, so this isn't some big industry secret or anything like that. It is, in fact, illegal for you to make your own credit cards. A lot of small businesses do it. Very common, okay? So anyhow, we'll get to that when we get to that. Let's talk about search warrant teams, okay? A search warrant team. Say I get a case together, maybe I believe a bunch of guys are stealing identities and making fake credit cards and checks, okay? So I put my case together, I establish enough probable cause, I go to a judge. I've now prepared basically a search warrant declaration where I lay out to the judge my probable cause, that I believe a crime has been committed, and these are the folks and the location where it's been committed. So in that declaration, I need to basically tell the judge, A, that I believe a crime has occurred or is about to occur. B, that the evidence of the crime I wish to locate is still at the scene, okay, at this specific location. I have to lay that out, and that it still exists. So I have to answer all those questions before a judge will hopefully order me to go to this location forthwith and recover this evidence and bring it back to the court. Okay, so now the judge has granted me the search warrant. I have to get a search warrant team together. Okay, this will be on the quiz. I want you guys to remember these specific roles in a search warrant team. Okay, the first, and I would say the most important, may not be a good way to say it, the integral person of the search warrant team is the case agent. That person who has written the search warrant, done the investigation, gone to the judge, most generally that's the same person, and they are the case agent. They are the one in charge, really. They're the ones that are going to say what we're looking for, where we're going to go, how we're going to do it, how many people we're going to have, what sort of evidence we're going to collect. That person is in charge. They're the case agent. Okay? So the case agent, the person who writes the warrant, the person who generally does the investigation leading up to that warrant. One of my favorite parts of this is when I tell the class about the supervisor. You need to have a supervisor there. And I always say, what does a supervisor do? He eats donuts. Okay? The supervisor doesn't really do anything. It's more a safety protocol, a liability protocol. I'll be honest with you, most time my sergeants, they don't want to know what I do. My sergeants in the past have always been homicide sergeants. So, and they're very, very smart. They know a lot. But they go into a hardcore white-collar crime location where we're extracting data from credit cards and thumb drives and clouds and all of that. They're like, what? So basically they're there to make sure that all of us follow the rules, more from a supervisory standpoint. I've never really had a supervisor say, hey, Detective Money, you need to do this or you need to do that. They're just there to make sure everything's good. Okay? So the supervisor, funny enough, supervises. Okay? What happens if we need to kick the door? It happens. Okay? I've kicked many, many, many doors. Why are we allowed to kick the door on a search warrant? Well, because a judge has ordered us to. It's more than just a request now. Once that judge signs that search warrant, that judge is saying you shall go to this location, you shall make entry, and you shall locate this evidence and bring it back to this court forthwith. If necessary, you're going to make entry into that location. Okay? So now I need a couple other players. I need a search team. Okay? So with me, generally search team, most often I try to keep it around 2. I try not to get too many people searching for stuff, because unless it's a really large location, it could just kind of become a quagmire. So I get 2 people. Their sole and exclusive job is to search throughout the house. That way we're all not just doing it all willy-nilly. Okay? One of the other folks we're going to have there is kind of what I call the security team. Security team, they're going to make sure that no one comes in and out of our crime scene. Okay? So they may post by the door, the front door, for example, and I don't know, say my lieutenant's driving around and he goes, oh, you know, I heard you guys put out this search warrant, I want to come in and look around. Well, sir, then you need to be signed in. We need to document your entry into the location during the search warrant. It's all very important. We're generally going to keep people out of it unless they have a reason or a right to be there. Okay? So say a friend shows up at the house, friend of the people who live there. Generally, we're not going to let them in the house. Okay? Not until it's all over. So that security team is going to keep people out. If we end up detaining people inside the house, we're going to basically hold everybody, detain them in a central location. I like the kitchen. Kitchens are always great. May have them sit down at a kitchen table, and we're going to have another security team member just watch them. Just make sure they're not doing anything silly, you know, calling up friends saying, hey, you need to get over here. They could call attorneys, they could do all that stuff they want. But we have that security team member watching them, keeping everybody safe. Now my security team is, or my search team is getting ready to start the search. But we have one important thing we need to do before all that. We have a photographer, okay? That photographer, we could double these roles in some cases. So we're going to talk about a photographer and a scribe, or a kind of the person keeping the property sheets. But the photographer is going to take pictures of the house before we make entry. Okay. When we make entry, he or she will go around the house after the people have been detained and made safe. The photographer is going to go in and around the house taking pictures, showing a before picture, as it were. Okay. Once that's done, we'll have basically a scribe now. And we're going to put that person somewhere with a bunch of property sheets. And they're basically going to document what property comes to them. We're going to, through proper chain of evidence, chain of custody, we're going to document and seal each piece of evidence that comes to us. So now the search team goes throughout the house. They start searching, but they do it methodically. Okay. Most often we're going to use a crime scene sketch. A crime scene sketch is not going to be as intensive as a homicide. Okay. We just want to be able to show kind of the format of the rooms and the general location of the evidence, so that if we're ever called upon to testify in court, we could pull up our crime scene sketch and say, oh, okay, that I located this item in bedroom number 2, in the northeast drawer, top drawer. Okay, and of course we're going to have photographs to back all that up as well. So now the search team starts searching. So I have my guy in, let's say, bedroom number 1. That's where he starts, and he finds 3 computers. And part of our search warrant says we're going to seize all computers. So he takes these 3 computers. We get the photographer in there. We photograph them first. Again, we want to document where the evidence was. Then we're going to take those computers, bring it over to our scribe, who is then going to document and seal that evidence. Okay, and list the evidence on a property sheet or a property receipt. Okay. Once we're all done with the search warrant, we're done. We've collected all the evidence we need. Then the photographer is going to go back throughout the house, taking pictures again, to show kind of the after, so that no one could say we, punched holes through walls, or, in some cases we may have to, but we'd have to have a good reason. Show any damage, maybe through a breach, a door kick, whatever it may be. And then we're going to clear the scene. Before we leave the scene, we leave a property sheet, basically of all items that we've taken from that household. We leave that there at the location. Okay, so I don't want to beat this up too much, but I want you guys to understand kind of what comprises a search warrant team, because we will talk about that. I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to do the final project. Typically the final project is we actually work Ediscovery crime scene. So I wanted you guys to understand the concepts of this again. So just to kind of generalize or give an overview, you have your case agent, the detective or investigator who's actually investigated the case, preparing the search warrant. Most often the one who goes to the judge and submits his affidavit and all that. Okay. We have the supervisor who eats donuts, but also generally just watches over the scene, makes sure that we're doing everything right. If someone has a major beef with what we're doing, someone in the household, for example, most often the supervisor would take care of that. Very rarely, but if we have a use of force or we have property damage, that supervisor will also be responsible for that, making sure he or she documents that, prepares a report on those certain things. If we have to make entry, we go in. We have our security team. Remember, our security team is watching who's coming in, who's going out. They're basically just kind of keeping us safe. They're watching any detainees we may have, usually in a central location. We have a photographer who is going to do a before and after set of pictures throughout the location we're searching. Make sure that there's an actual, truthful history of how that search went through the house. We're going to have our search team. Our search team, after a sketch, a crime scene sketch, remember we're going to indicate how the house is formatted. Bedroom 1, bedroom 2, here's the bathroom. We're going to basically make sure it's identified by north, south, east, and west, and all of that, so that if we ever are called to court again, we could explain where certain pieces of evidence were located. Then we're going to have our property scribe. Our property scribe is going to sit down, and any of the search team members who brings an item to him or her, the property scribe will document where that item was collected, from what time, who collected it, where from, and then also remember, he or she will seal that item, ultimately resulting in a property receipt that we will leave at the location. We do a set of after pictures, and then we're done. Okay, and that's it. So really, as far as lecture goes, that's really what I wanted to give you guys this class. We'll talk more about terms and such, but when you take your quiz, I will be asking questions on certain roles of each one of these players in a search warrant team, because it is very important when it comes to any sort of search warrant, but especially in a Ediscovery search warrant. Okay? You guys be careful. Keep your social distancing up. Be safe. Okay? And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.